So after that, I must ask, what is endurance racing like if you've been a part of it?
Endurance racing is really cool. So I started with sprint racing. I did sprint racing for a number of years before I even got into endurance racing. And it's a funny story about how I got into endurance racing. I'll tell you later. It's a different game, right? So in sprint racing, you've got maybe 20 to 30 minutes to get the job done. Qualifying is super important in sprint racing. You've got to qualify as far off the grid as you possibly can. And it's elbows out. It's literally get it done, get everything done now, get to the front and stay there. Endurance racing is a completely different animal from that perspective. You want to qualify well, but it's not critical. You've got a eight between 8 or 24 hour race. I mean, you could be anywhere in between those two numbers. So you have a huge amount of time to kind of get the car into position to win. So you take your time. You don't make any dumb moves. First rule is to protect the car at all costs. Don't put the car in a bad situation. Don't over rev the car. Treat the car right. Manage your tires, manage your brakes. As I like to say to my teammates, leave some car for the next guy who's getting in it. Because if you burn it down, in the first 4 hours, the car's not going to be there at the end. The other thing that I love about endurance racing is it's a team sport, right? So, it's not just the drivers in the car either. I got three drivers, the way we run it with the team I'm in, round three racing. We have three drivers per car. But you know what? There's so many hours that are behind the scenes done by, the car chiefs and the mechanics and the engineers. Mark Gamora, being, the head guy there working on engineering the cars. He spends, hours upon hours. Every race hour, I'm sure he spends, multiples of that in the shop, making sure the car is ready and making sure the car is going to finish the race. So there's a huge amount of team effort from that side to the car chiefs to everybody who's the guys who are fueling, the guys who are working on the tires. I mean, it's a big operation, and it's a completely different feeling when you win. As a sprint racer, and when you win, it's all about you. You've done the job. Yes, you have a crew chief and somebody taking care of the car, but it's a much more singular focus. When it's an endurance racing victory, it's a victory for the entire team, your co-drivers and the crew that's involved in keeping the car on track.
That's really cool, man. Have you ever won by like a narrow margin or a photo finish at all?
Yeah, I've absolutely have. So I've won and lost races by hundredths of seconds, not even tenths. I mean, so I have a good friend of mine, Dave Sanders. We race Corvettes, and we're at New Jersey Motorsports Park. We're doing a regional race just for fun. I show up to the race and miss qualifying, and basically means I have to start from the back. And it's a regional race. Nobody's really too upset about where we're starting. We're just there to have fun. So I say, Dave, you want to start in the back of the pack with me and just have a race because we know we're going to be close? He said, yeah, sure, let's do it. So we start 16th and 17th on the grid, and I let him start ahead of me. So just as being a nice guy, and we race our way to the front. We finished third and fourth overall, and he beats me at the line by I think it was like 800ths of a second. I mean, I have a video freeze frame from my camera where he's got maybe a fender on me.
Oh man, that's really amazing. Like those photo finishes are always the most exciting.
Oh, it was great. And we both got out of the car, like, shaking from the adrenaline. So we both drove our tails off. There's nothing, we knew that we left nothing on the table, and we had we had a blast doing it. It was probably one of those fun races I've had. It was one of those races where, if either one of us started from the front, we would have been on the podium, one or two. But, we decided to just have some fun and actually have a race. It's because he qualified like P1 or something. And I convinced him to start in the back with me. And we had more fun that way than starting and winning the race.
That's really incredible. So when did you join round three racing?
So I started with I was at round three racing's first race ever in the endurance series. So they used to do Champ Car, and that was at Road Atlanta. I remember it was freezing. It was absolutely freezing. But how I got invited to join round three is an interesting story. Brad McCall is a good buddy of mine now, but we had raced at the SCCA National Championship runoffs in Sonoma a few years back. I think it was 2018. And we drove door to door, nose to tail the entire race. We're fighting for, I think, sixth or seventh place in T1, which is the Touring One category for SCCA. I was driving my Corvette. He was driving the Cayman, which is now a 702 that he campaigns in WRL. And we literally drove door to door for 40 minutes. And I was at the end of the race again. I was just happy I had a good race. The fact that I didn't finish on the podium, oh well. But I thought it was a great race. I get back to my paddock spot and start loading up the car, and Brad comes running up on his little ATV pit bike, saying, "Where's James Candelaria?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh, this guy. Who is this guy? Why is he mad at me?" Thought he was mad at me, and he comes over and is like, "Dude, that was one of the most fun races I've ever had." Gave me a big hug, and we've been friends ever since. And he gave me a call once he started this round 3 racing program. He said, "I'd love to drive with you. You're obviously, a conscientious driver. You know how to drive in traffic. You know how not to ruin someone else's race." He thought I'd be a good fit for the team. So fast forward to Road Atlanta, we end up with the first cars, his first version of these Boxsters. It was a challenging race because mechanically the cars had issues. We had an issue. We blew up a gearbox, then we blew up a clutch, and then we had to throw in the towel because the team worked tirelessly to change the transmission in the cold on the ground without a lift. And then once they had that done, the clutch slave cylinder failed. So it just made no sense. We were so many laps down. Made no sense to continue to fight mechanical gremlins. But it was neat because it was my first experience with endurance racing, and I really got the feel for how dedicated the team is, and kind of the team aspect of racing was really great, and I've been doing a lot more of it ever since.
That's great, man. So how'd you get injured?
Unfortunately, so my last race was at Summit Point, I guess on March 21st. We had run in T1. I was racing a Corvette, and we had qualified really well, qualified P2, starting right there, and we go, green flag drops, and away we go. Lap 1, everything's fine. Lap 2, all of a sudden, I go to the brakes at the brake zone at 153 miles an hour, and the brakes go to the floor, and the car's not slowing down. So I end up having to make a decision. I'm either going into the wall at that speed, or I'm going to try to turn the car. So what I did is I decided to turn the car. I turned the car. Car turned a lot, apparently more than I input than I put in it, because the rear brakes looks like they were functioning a little bit. And car turned. Unfortunately, I ended up meeting a Mustang in a different class at the apex of turn 1 at a high rate of speed. And unfortunately, at that velocity, there's a lot of kinetic energy in the car, and I ended up having suffering a broken pelvis in about 4 spots, and the other driver had some somewhat serious injuries as well. But from what I understand, he's on the mend and walking around at this point. So.
That's good to hear that both of you guys emerged okay. When that happened, what was the first thing that came to your mind when you were in the hospital?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing that came to mind when I was in the car was, oh my gosh, my wife. I need to tell my wife I'm all right, because I'm sure she was watching, or some way she was following the races. Once I got to the hospital, I realized how lucky I was to have survived. And how lucky I was that all the safety equipment worked, and that Phoenix Performance put together a great car that really went above and beyond the safety specification that's in the rule book. And I became extremely thankful for the fact that I never tried to save money in the wrong place.
Good on you, man. So, what's the timetable for your return to the sport if you're able to?
I'll be back. So it looks like July, they're projecting I'll have a full recovery by July. That means the ability to bear full weight, the ability to not worry about a subsequent injury if I get any type of pressure on the joints. So I mean, I'm going to take it a little slow. We're going to give it probably a little bit more time than that. My next SCCA race is most likely going to be the national championship runoffs in Indianapolis. We finished P3 there last year. My goal is to finish P2 or higher. I've got the car for it, and as long as the body's up to it, I will be there in end of September, early October.
Good to hear. So, how did you hold up in COVID times when everything shut down?
Man, it was tough. I mean, for racing, the fact that everything was shut down for so long and became such a cumbersome attempt to do any racing, I relied like everybody else did on simulator racing. Getting iRacing, getting a platform built where I could really kind of just keep my skills sharp. I ran a lot of iRacing laps, did a little bit of online racing with my buddies, just kind of tried to get through because there's nothing more frustrating than not being able to be in a race car.
Yeah, for sure. So, what's that business you told me about that you want to promote through this video?
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. I run a company called Candelaria Racing Products. I manufacture electronic systems for motorsport. Our most recent product launch is doing extremely well. It is a motorsport-focused live streaming platform. So essentially, it is a picture-in-picture, multiple camera system that allows you to have a driver camera, a main camera, a rear view camera, all overlaid onto the same feed, broadcast directly to YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, so that people can follow along with your racing. It has a lot of really cool features. In fact, it has the ability to overlay your GPS speed. We'll take data. Shortly, we'll be launching the AIM integration where you can take data from your throttle position, your RPM, all that displayed on screen. We also have the ability for it to be cloud controlled, especially for endurance racing. This is really cool because if another driver gets in the car, you can change the driver name, have that overlaid on the screen. And it also integrates with Race Hero such that you get the statistics of your last lap, your best lap, your position in the race, all kind of overlaid onto the video feed.
Really cool. The link, everybody, is right here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Do you have a Facebook page for it?
I do. So it's Candelaria Racing Products on Facebook. And my Instagram is also the same, @Candelaria Racing Products.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a very good business venture. By the way, that's the magic of editing.
Yeah, I know the business is going really well. We manufactured 2 small runs just to test the market. They both sold out. So we're running a much larger manufacturing run now, and we expect to hopefully get a lot more systems and cars in the near future.
Good to hear. So my last question on the list is, what are your hopes for this year in both your business and your racing?
Well, I mean, I'll take the racing one first. I think, my hopes are really to have a safe finish to the year, right? So unfortunately, early in the season, having an early season injury is very frustrating, but I hope to come back and be safe and have if I have to go for a stretch goal, finish in P2 at the SCCA National Championship runoffs this year. That's my ultimate goal. And also on the endurance side is just, be a good teammate. I may not always be the fastest guy in the car because I've got some superstar co-drivers in Christian Maloof and Shea Holbrook. But I will, always want to be a strong participant and make sure that I don't let the team down. On the business side, I really just hope to be able to enable more motorsports people to be able to share what we do in the car with a wider audience.
That's really cool. I hope you succeed, and hopefully you'll win a championship soon because the championships are always the best.
Yeah, I hope so, but I've got a really tough competitor. Andrew Acalante is the races in my class, and he's the odds-on favorite to win. And I also have a good competitor, Mark Bowden, who is also, we've gone toe to toe a number of times. I think that he's going to be a pretty tough guy to beat. And there's a lot of other guys out there as well. But I think I've got an opportunity, and I'll keep my fingers crossed, see what I can do with it.
I'll keep my fingers crossed for you as well, because it'd be a great comeback story if you could, get injured and then go on to win a championship. That'd be a good story when you think about it.
It sure would. Let's see what we can do.
For sure. I want to thank you for appearing on the channel, and we'll see you next time on the Motor Racing Interview podcast.